Are we ready? Not quite? Okay.
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay.
This is Ms. Hurd calls Joshua Drew.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Do you live
Los Angeles.
What is your occupation?
I run my own hospitality development consulting firm.
Are you also a chef?
Not anymore.
What, if any, education have you had since high school?
I have my Associates of Science in Culinary Arts,
And from what institution?
Johnson & Wales University.
Did you receive a degree from there?
I did.
In what year?
That would have been 2003.
Who is Raquel Rose Pennington?
My ex-wife.
Because I want to be respectful, how should I refer to her? Ms. Pennington, Rocky, or Raquel?
Rocky or Raquel is perfectly fine.
Okay. You were married to Rocky, so there came a time when you began to date Rocky, correct?
Correct.
When did you start dating Rocky?
That would have been June of 2014.
And did there come a time when you became engaged to Rocky?
Correct.
When was that?
That would have been in summer of 2015. Yeah, I believe.
Do you recall when you were divorced from Rocky?
Officially September 24th of last year. We separated officially October of the previous year.
When did you first meet Amber Heard?
Probably about 3 or 4 weeks after Raquel and I had started dating, very early on.
When did you first meet Johnny Depp?
Shortly after I met Amber, I want to say, if memory serves, about 5 or 6 weeks after Raquel and I started dating.
Again, I understand it was a long time ago, but do you recall under what circumstances you met him?
Funny enough, I actually do very clearly. I had come over under the auspice of what was called Family Movie Night, and it was Amber and Johnny and Jack. I honestly don't remember whether Lily Rose was there. She might have come later at a certain point. And it was just us in their apartment eating burgers and watching movies.
Since that time, on how many occasions have you seen and interacted with Johnny Depp from that very first time on movie night?
I couldn't even speculate the number of. It's not that it was infrequent so much as it was sporadic and honestly for a large portion of it fairly casual. Not the kind of thing where you would just count the number of times. It was regular interactions over various periods of time.
Well, your counsel is not going to let you speculate, but I'm going to ask you to get a range. Is it more than 10 times?
Yes.
More than 50 times?
Yes.
From the time that you first met Mr. Depp on movie night until this very moment sitting here today, have you ever seen Mr. Depp strike Amber Heard?
No.
Have you ever seen him throw a telephone at her?
No.
Have you ever seen him hit her with a fist?
No.
Have you ever lived at a building located at 849 South Broadway in Los Angeles known as the Eastern Columbia Building?
Correct.
Did you live in the condo known as Penthouse 1?
Correct.
With whom did you live in Penthouse 1?
Raquel Pennington.
From when to when did you live in Penthouse 1 with Rocky Pennington?
Again, my memory is a little bit foggy of exact dates. Man, you'll have to bear with me a minute here. So while I was a frequent guest, I didn't actually live there until I want to say about October or November of 2015.
Was Rocky already living in Penthouse 1 when you started visiting and ultimately moved in there?
Yes.
Did Ms. Pennington move into Penthouse 1 in or about June of 2014?
I couldn't tell you with any specificity, but I believe it's around that time frame.
Who owned Penthouse 1 at the time?
Johnny Depp.
While you and Rocky lived together in Penthouse 1, did you or she have a key that allowed you access to all of the penthouses on that floor?
Everything except PH2, yes.
At the time, did Mr. Depp and Ms. Heard live together in PH3?
Sporadically, yes.
The key to which you and Rocky had access allowed either of you to enter PH3, correct?
Correct.
Who was in PH5 at the time?
Nobody. Nobody lived in PH5 for the entirety of our time there.
Did you or Rocky ever pay Mr. Depp any rent to live in PH1?
Offered and refused.
Did you consider the refusal of your offer to be a generous gesture by Mr. Depp?
Exceedingly.
In your experience, is Mr. Depp generally generous to his friends?
Yes.
Is he generous to people generally?
Yes.
Did Mr. Depp own Penthouse 5?
Yes.
Would your key have opened Penthouse 5?
Yes.
When you and Rocky were living here in Penthouse 1, did you ever notice that there were security personnel standing outside the door of Penthouse 3 when Mr. Depp was in Penthouse 3?
Not normally, no.
Did you ever see the security personnel standing outside of his door?
On very rare occasion. Normally they were in a storage room off to the side of PH5.
Moving aside from Mr. Bett and Mr. Judge, while you stayed at the East Columbia building, did you come to know any of the employees of the building?
Casually.
Who is Trinity Esparza?
She was one of the front desk people.
Did you have communications with her?
In the course of living there, yes.
Did you find her to be pleasant?
No.
How was she unpleasant?
She was not particularly polite or accommodating to me or Raquel or any of Amber's friends. I wasn't there specifically, but I heard similar things from Amber and her interactions with her as well throughout the course of our time there.
While you lived in Penthouse 1, did you have the opportunity to interact often with Amber Heard?
Yes.
Did you and Rocky see Ms. Heard frequently?
Yes.
Did you ever see her drinking alcohol?
Yes.
Did you ever see her drink to excess?
Yes.
Did you observe Amber Heard during her wedding to Mr. Depp at the Bahamas?
Yes.
Was she intoxicated at any time during the wedding weekend?
Yes. As were we all.
Did you ever hear at any time Amber Heard yell at Mr. Depp?
Yes.
On how many occasions?
I couldn't tell you the number of occasions.
Did you ever see her strike Mr. Depp?
No.
Did you and Rocky ever discuss the relationship between Amber Heard and Johnny Depp?
Yes.
On how many occasions?
Honestly, probably hundreds, if not thousands.
Mr. Drew, moving to April 21, 2016, do you recall that there was to have been a birthday celebration that night?
Yes.
Was that Amber Heard's birthday?
Yes.
Do you recall which birthday it was for her, how old she was?
It was her 30th. I catered it.
What do you recall about that evening?
I recall it was held in PH5. Johnny was hours late, and Amber spent the better part of the evening making excuses for him. And he came very obviously intoxicated and put on a show for everybody. And when the party was over, or we left, cleaned up, and the next morning we heard about what had transpired after the fact.
So Johnny was supposed to have attended the dinner, correct?
Correct.
And at what time did the dinner begin?
I don't recall.
You and Rocky were guests at the dinner?
Correct.
Who else was invited to the dinner?
Again, you'll have to forgive me. It was quite some time ago. I remember Amber's friend Brandon being there, Amber's friend Iggy, a rabbi. I want to say that Whitney was there as well. To be very honest, I can't say with specificity whom else was there.
When you say Whitney, are you referring to Whitney Heard?
Correct.
Is Whitney Heard Amber's younger sister?
Correct.
Putting aside the state or condition in which Johnny arrived, do you recall sitting here today approximately when Johnny arrived for dinner?
I really couldn't tell you with any specificity, but I can say it was quite a few hours after the party had started.
Did he provide any excuse or explanation to the group as to why he was late?
No.
Putting aside Mr. Depp's intake of alcohol that evening, had Miss Heard been drinking before Mr. Depp arrived?
Yes.
Do you know how much?
Couldn't tell you.
Did she seem intoxicated at any time during the evening?
Yes.
Did you see Amber Heard the next morning, April 22nd, 2016?
I believe so, yes.
Did you notice any marks on her face or elsewhere that morning?
I don't recall.
That morning, April 22nd, did you and Ms. Pennington and Amber Heard drive together to Coachella?
They did, I did not.
Are you still in contact with Amber Heard?
Sporadically, yes.
And just to be clear, and I'm sorry to jump around, when you say strike that, are you say sporadically? How frequently you're in contact with her?
We didn't speak for about 2 years following my divorce, and she reached out to me to make amends about, I want to say about 2 months ago, if memory serves.
I'm going to come back to that. When you said you don't recall seeing marks on the morning of April 22nd, is that because you didn't see any marks on Miss Heard, or you didn't see her at all that morning?
I honestly don't recall the state of her the next morning. If memory serves, it was, but that the girls were hustling to get everything together to go out to Coachella, so it was a pretty frantic morning. I couldn't say with any specificity whether I interacted with her that morning before they departed.
And Mr. Drew, you said that Ms. Heard reached out to you. When did she reach out to you?
Sometime in the last 2 months.
What did she say when she reached out to you?
To paraphrase, it was something akin to letting me know that, you know, her and Raquel hadn't spoken in some time, and to tell me that she loved me and that she missed me, and she just wanted to make amends and, you know, reconnect.
Did she mention anything about this lawsuit?
Not in the initial interaction.
How did you respond to her in this initial interaction when she said she wanted to make amends?
I didn't for some time. I think I waited about a week and a half before I responded, and before I could, I did get a note from her letting me know that she had tried to keep me out of it, but more than likely people were going to be contacting me either about being deposed or a statement of some kind. There was nothing explicit about whom it would be coming from, whether it was from Johnny's side or from her side, only that somebody would more than likely be reaching out to me.
And when you had a glass of wine, again, only lawyers remember these things, but do you recall approximately when you had a glass of wine with her?
Probably about 5 or 6 weeks ago. Oh, I'm sorry, it would be longer than that. Probably about 2 months ago.
Mr. Drew, let's please change subjects and move to the evening of May 21, 2016, which you had referenced previously. Was Mr. Depp at the condo at the East Columbia building that day prior to the evening?
Not to my knowledge.
Did you see him arriving at the condo that night?
No.
Did you see Mr. Bett and Mr. Judge that evening?
Yes.
When did you first see them?
I saw them when he ordered them to open the door to PH5 following the incident.
When you say he, to whom are you referring?
Johnny.
Did you ever see them that night somewhere outside the door of PH3?
No.
Do you know whether she received a text from Amber Heard at 8:06 p.m.?
I can't certify the time, but the text message itself and the receipt, yes.
Were you with Rocky when she received that text?
Yes.
Wasn't she already in Penthouse 3 as of 8:06 p.m.?
When she received the text, she was not in Penthouse 3. She was in Penthouse 5 with me. But again, I can't recall with specificity the exact time of these events.
Any time, including that night, did you ever see Mr. Depp strike Rocky Pennington?
No.
That evening, did you see Mr. Depp smash bottles of wine?
No.
Did you see him break furniture?
No.
Did you see him kick a hole through a solid door?
No.
Do you recall when Mr. Depp, Mr. Bett, and Mr. Judge left the building that night?
If we're presuming that that text was received from Raquel at 8:06, they had left the building within 30 minutes, to my recollection.
So it would be approximately sometime around 8:30, 8:29?
Thereabouts, but I don't recall specifically.
What else do you remember about the events of the evening of May 21?
I mean, I can tell you contemporaneously from the start if there's something specific you'd like me to expound on.
Who is Officer Melissa Science?
My understanding, it was the name of the Latina officer that first responded with her partner.
When did she arrive at the scene, if you recall?
Vaguely, I remember them arriving about 45 minutes to an hour after Johnny had left. But again, exact times I'm a little foggy.
Going back to the Latina officer, was there another officer with her?
Yes, there was a bald gentleman, white,
With which officer, if any, did you speak that night?
both.
What do you say to them, if you recall?
When they arrived, I greeted them at the door. I walked them through PH3 to show them the damage, show them the broken glass. They had already walked through the hallway over the gigantic wine stain throughout the entire hallway. I took them through PH3, like I said, to show them the damage. I took them back out of the hallway, showed them the dent in the door shaped like the bottom of a wine bottle in PH1, took them into PH5 to see broken picture frames, smashed glass, Raquel's jewelry and things like that strewn about the apartment. And then I brought them back to PH3, at which point they separated. The Latino officer pulled Amber aside specifically to speak to her one-on-one. The door was closed. I was outside with the other officer. So I can't say with any specificity what happened inside. I don't know whether anybody was in earshot. I don't know whether everybody else was around. They told me specifically it was one-on-one. And I was outside the door with the male officer. And specifically, my communication with him was asking what, if anything, could be done, because we were obviously upset. And his comment to me specifically was, there's damage in these apartments. Her face is red. If she wants to file a report, we have enough here to go pick him up.
But you've never seen Johnny hit Amber.
That's correct. And I've affirmed it to everybody that I've spoken to. I've been explicit about that.
And you've never seen Johnny hit any woman.
Correct.
Do you recall having a conversation with Rocky and Amber after Mr. Depp and his security personnel left the building, but before Officer Science and Officer Haddon arrived?
Yes.
Tell us about that.
You'll have to forgive me again. My memory of the exact sequence of events, that transpired after all this is a little foggy. If memory serves, Amber was damn near catatonic after all this. We had gotten her into PH1 so we could deadbolt the door and keep her safe until he left. A few minutes thereafter, I had gotten a little bit of a rundown from Raquel over what had transpired. Raquel got her to call her lawyer, Samantha Spector, to find out what to do. And if memory serves, Samantha's recommendation was that we immediately put together a contemporaneous, matter-of-fact statement together of what had transpired that night. And that ultimately was up to Amber as to what she wanted to do with the police or whatever it may be.
Are you aware that Amber Heard spoke to Officer Science and Officer Haddon that evening?
Yes.
Were you present when she was speaking to them?
No.
Did Amber file a complaint that night?
No.
Did the police arrest Mr. Depp?
No.
Did they issue a warrant for his arrest?
Not that I'm aware of.
Mr. Drew, let's turn for the moment to May 22nd, 2016. Did you see Ms. Heard at all that day?
Yes.
When did you see her?
At various points throughout the day. If memory serves, Raquel had committed to a jewelry show somewhere, I want to say it was downtown, I might be mistaken, it might have been out in Venice, somewhere in Los Angeles. So she was out most of the day. So I cleared my schedule to be able to be there should Amber need anything. If memory serves, either her attorney or somebody in her group had a friend come over with a locksmith to change the locks, just to be safe. And I was there to make sure that that happened, and just, like I said, be there for Amber should she need anything, just so she wasn't alone.
When you saw Amber on May 22nd, you don't know whether it was the morning or the afternoon. Is that right?
It was sporadic throughout the day. I think it was some point late morning and throughout the afternoon.
When you first saw her, did you notice any marks on her face?
Yes.
Describe the marks, please.
To be very honest with you, I don't actually remember which side of her face it was, but I do distinctly remember there being a red mark and a small bruise on her cheekbone, and red marks just above her eyebrow and to the right side, or to the side of her eyebrow.
Did you see any swelling?
A little bit.
Can you remember anything else? Did you see marks anywhere else other than the ones you've described?
No.
Did you ever notice anyone visiting Amber Heard at night while Mr. Depp was away?
During the time that I was living there?
Yes.
Yes.
On how many occasions?
I wouldn't even be able to estimate.
Was it more than 10?
Yes.
Was it more than 20?
Yes.
Was it more than 30?
Yes.
Was it more than 50?
Again, I can't really speculate. I was there for quite some time.
When did that first occur?